As the new marriage progressed, the young married couples became fully engaged in their own affairs to make ends meet. And because of that, they hardly visited her. She felt very lonely and depression sets in. Maybe mother-in-law would have preferred the world kind of marriage, the Indian kind of marriage, in which the daughter-in-law lives together with her husband and mother-in-law, etc. I regret the impossible. Such an arrangement cannot work in Nigeria. After Omugwo, mother-in-law knows that her time is up before she becomes a monitoring spirit and the unelected governor in the house. Very well, that's by the way. The husband's mother was not happy. Her granddaughter was not bearing her name as promised by her son, and they no longer visit her as they used to. Mother-in-law started thinking and grumbling to her ancestors. She begged her ancestors to intervene and persuade her son to care about her and stop neglecting her. The ancestors she invoked mentally actually came to her rescue. Her ancestors attempted to gain access into the innermost beings of her son and daughter-in-law, but they could not. So they entered into the innermost being of their infant little daughter, and that was how they gained the attention of the married couples. The little girl became sick and was getting weaker each day. Negative spiritual entities always gain the attention of human beings faster by inflicting misfortune or sickness on them, so that they will be compelled to conduct spiritual inquiries. I conducted spiritual inquiry into the matter. I saw angry ancestral spirits surrounded the infant baby. I also saw a depressed, lonely grandmother craving for love and attention from her son and daughter-in-law. You may want to know why the infant baby girl was attacked instead of her father, who promised to name his infant daughter after his mother. The truth is, her son had actually forgotten about the promise he made to his mother. Therefore, he had no sense of guilt. That was why the ancestral spirits could not get hold of him and break him down with sickness. The innocent infant daughter became a pawn in the hands of the ancestral forces. A young, handsome brother man gained admission to a secondary school in Boulder City. Not long afterwards, he started searching for a new girlfriend in the village, and eventually he got a beautiful girlfriend. She fell madly in love with him to the extent she made up her mind to break off her engagement to her responsible fiancé based in Port Harcourt. Her grandmother ferociously disapproved of the love affair. From the first day, she set her eyes on her granddaughter's boyfriend. Intuitively, she felt he had no good intentions for her. She knew he was a playboy. Grandma did her best to break up the love affair. She verbally threatened the boy. She told him, "If you don't leave my granddaughter alone, you will not like what the gods of our land will do to you." The young brother man never took her threat seriously. Perhaps he was already used to the futile threats of his parents at home. He never knew that his girlfriend's grandmother was dead serious, and she was a firm believer in ancestral worship. A few months later, the lover boy experienced prickling numbness in his feet, which crept slowly upward, and a few days later, it had reached his waist. Eventually, he landed in a Port Harcourt hospital. Doctors could not discover the cause of his sudden illness, and he was not responding to medical therapy. His parents thoroughly interrogated him about his lifestyle in Bodo City. He told them what transpired between him and his girlfriend's grandmother. His Christian father brought in prayer warriors, but his son's situation did not improve. I listened to the sick boy's pathetic story and conducted spiritual investigation into the matter. Within me, I realized his girlfriend's grandmother's instinct about the sick boy was right. The love affair was infatuation. In my youthful days, I lived in Bodo City, and I still have allies there. I drove down to Bodo City and located the grandmother's house. I told her I came to apologize on behalf of the sick boy disturbing our granddaughter. I promised her he will immediately discontinue his love affair with our granddaughter. I gave her some amount of money and persuaded her to pour libation and verbally forgive him. She told me point blank she can only forgive him on one condition, and that is he must stop schooling in Bodo City and relocate elsewhere to continue his education. I assured her the boy's parents will comply with her demands. She appreciated my assurance, and immediately she poured libation and chanted some incantations. I returned to Port Harcourt and played my own part spiritually. Eventually, the lover boy recovered. Of a truth, I tell you, it was the materialistic and ungodly intentions of the lover boy that made it easy for the grandmother to attack him spiritually. What makes spiritual attacks easy? The laws of God are embedded within you. Within you exists the still small voice, always making effort to guide you on the right path. Maybe I should call it conscience, the moral sense of right and wrong. We say many things to have our way. Many of us make promises we don't intend to fulfill. Many brother men have proposed to girls they don't intend to marry, not even in their dreams. In the end, they will destroy them emotionally and abandon them. Many of us are more interested in making profit from the pathetic situations of others. My brother man and sister woman, it is the deep sense of guilt which was caused by wrongs done to others that makes spiritual attacks easy. It is guilty conscience that makes it easy for spiritual attacks to take place. In contrast, no sense of guilt, a clear conscience, makes it difficult for spiritual attacks to take place. Remember, last week I talked about Kenneth, the prayer warrior, whose neighbor inflicted him with spiritual stroke so that he will stop praying loudly in the night because of his midnight prayers was actually disturbing other tenants. Mr. Kenneth did nothing about it. Perhaps he forgot we have been told to do unto others what we want them to do unto us. If he had apologized to his neighbor and prayed moderately in the night, his evil-minded neighbor would have not succeeded in attacking him spiritually. Now, pertaining Mr. Joe, the lover boy, who failed to clearly explain to his girlfriend Margaret what he was passing through in the hands of his parents because of their relationship, he decided to completely avoid her. Mr. Joe had a sense of guilt. He knew that his girlfriend Margaret will be deeply hurt if he told her his parents don't want him to marry her. Mr. Joe was feeling very bad while avoiding Margaret at the same time. That was why it was very easy for the spirits to gain access into his innermost being and inflicted him with epilepsy.
If the human body you are functioning with on planet Earth is laden with a heavy karma, You are bound to experience persecutions from people, inability to impress others, etc. You will be disliked by people, and people will not appreciate your efforts. You will constantly be plagued by misery, worries, sorrows, afflictions, and etc.
Your enemy will make effort to obtain your personal belongings, which contains your magnet, and hand it over to a voodoo priest to perform diabolical rituals. The evil spirits will follow the scent emanating from your personal items to locate you wherever you are in the world and make your life miserable. Therefore, many a times, back to sender prayers simply means you are sending the spiritual attack back to the voodoo priest who sent it, and not your enemy who consulted him to send the spiritual attack to you. Of a truth I tell you, in order to avoid the fatal danger of spiritual attacks returning to the voodoo priest, advanced voodoo practitioners often perform a certain ritual and mention the name of the person who consulted them to send it. The deflecting ritual will ensure that if the spiritual attack they sent to you is being commanded to return to the sender, the spiritual attack will return to the person who consulted them and not the voodoo priest.
Follow us on Facebook at Guru Desai, Instagram at Guru Desai, Twitter at Guru Desai, and YouTube Desires Pathfinder TV.